All right. Hello, folks. Welcome to episode 12 of working on Mike's Song Themes app. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Good morning
Morning.
and good afternoon for everybody, or evening for
Or evening.
wherever you are.
It's funny, whenever I do the math, because I always post like when it's PST and when it's UTC, for some reason, I always end up with adding 9 a.m. and then 9, even though it's 8 hours ahead. And then I end up with 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. And I don't know why. And I do that a lot. And I don't know why I do that. But 9
It's because
plus
software
9 plus
engineers,
9 is 18, but that's not the right time.
software
But,
engineers like fence post errors.
well, it's weird because it only happens with like a 9 a.m. start. When it's any other time, like if it's a 1 p.m. start, I don't have that problem. But I always somehow add 9 to 9. I always add 8 to any other value. So one of those strange border cases.
Yeah. The brain is a funny thing.
Yep. All right. So last time we started working on bulk import of multiple songs.
Right.
Should I share your screen?
Sure.
We can see where we're at. Let's add to stage.
Turns out TSV is a thing. I know you were calling it by that acronym, and I was looking at some other tool. I don't know what it was, and it was like, do you want to input, CS? Oh no, it was an export. That's what it was. It was an export of a radio playlist software that the radio station I volunteer at has. I wanted to get a list of everything I played in the last year. And it was like, do you want TSV? Do you want CSV? Do you want Excel? Do you want, I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
It really is a thing.
It really is a thing. Not that I didn't believe you, but it was just new to me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I actually do at the radio thing is I make a list of favorite songs of 2023, but also things that are new to me in 2023. Could be decades old, right? It could be. I like making multiple lists. Something about radio people that like making lists.
Some people are just list makers. Yeah.
Sorry.
Some people are just list makers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So let's see. Where did we leave off? Adding songs to be a bulk load.
Well, let's do the usual of let's run all our tests.
Yes, yeah. Okay, we got a breaking test.
Yeah. And that's failing for the right reason.
What is the right reason? Let's see. Yeah, we're just getting one song.
Right. Yeah, in fact, we could. So one of the things that I tend to do is start with the least restrictive assertion that will fail, because sometimes it's easier to understand. Like this one, it takes a little bit of time to like look at the error message and it's like, what's the problem? Oh, it's only one of them is of the two that we want is in there. Right. Whereas if we just said assert that songs has size of 1, or sorry, 2 in this case, it would have been a lot more obvious that it failed in that way.
Right.
But so what we can do is, and something I just thought of, and I'm not sure why I don't do that. We could actually do multiple assertions. So we could, before the contains exactly, because you can chain the assertion, so you don't have to write a separate assert that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I was just thinking, it's like, yes. So it will blow up on the first thing that fails, because it executes it in that order. So you can say it has size of 2.
Sweet.
And what you can do is if it's unclear, well, why are we expecting 2? We can put a description before the has size. If you do a dot as above that, and then you can say expecting 2 songs.
What about this?
And so now if you fail, it will basically show the text error message in addition to the assertion that 2 is not 1.
Oh, and it still does it
It will
doesn't
still, yes, it will
do
still
the second
show
method.
the actual, so you don't have to manually display that. Yeah.
Ah, got it. It shows the actual, but it doesn't actually fire this assert because it
R-
blew before that.
Right, because it blew up before. Yeah.
Got it. And I guess
Which
one other thing to make it a little bit more self-explanatory is we could do something along the lines of this. Um,
right.
but it doesn't help with the blow up.
No,
The
but
description is helpful.
certainly, yeah, yeah,
The as description.
yeah.
Nice.
So that's and so then once we get it to 2 songs, if it's in the wrong order for some reason, then at least we know there are 2 and it's just in the wrong order
Right. So does this
or
as
the wrong content.
right? Does this as display only for the next has?
So the way it works is it is the description that will happen when we blow up. And so if we want a different description when it blows up on the contains exactly, we can put in another as and say
But here,
songs, song content not expected.
something like that.
Yeah.
So the as will then supersede once it gets past the first assertion,
Right.
if you
Right.
will.
And so if you want to see that, change the has size to 1 so to get it past that point. And then we can see that it should display unexpected song content. Yep.
Oh, that's cool. Well, it's now officially a good day. I learned something new.
That was quick.
Woohoo.
All right, so we've got a failing test. It's failing for the right reason. Um, let's see if we can make it pass.
Yeah. So let's see. What did we? So was this parser code? So how are we doing it right now? We're splitting, stuffing it into some local variables, parsing the themes into a list. Oh, we're only doing it for one song.
Right. Sorry, I'm just taking some notes here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're basically ignoring we're basically ignoring anything after the first 10 columns.
So is
Actually, we're
this
ignoring everything after the first 8 columns or 9 columns or whatever.
right? Is it considering this all one big row?
Pretty much at this point, yeah, because we're only parsing on tabs. We're only splitting. Sorry, we're only splitting on tabs. We're not splitting on new lines.
Okay.
So we'll probably want. We probably would just want to split on new lines
And
as well, and then loop through.
oh, right. So split on new lines first.
So we
Then
might, yeah. So we probably want to do a prepare refactoring, because right now the code from 11 through 18 is to parse a single song.
right.
So I think we can just do that
Extract that.
without having to disable the test. I think we're professional enough. We can refactor with one failing test.
Yeah. So extract method.
Yeah.
That's
But
oh, I used the wrong
you hit
one.
Control
Yeah.
Alt, Control Alt.
Parse song.
Yeah.
I was debating whether to say parse one song or
I,
a
I
song.
I think so, I think song is sufficient.
Yeah, no, I think so too. That's
Yeah.
but that's why I paused. My brain was
Yeah.
going through all
No, right.
those options. Oh, let's rerun
So
the test.
we can run the
Should
we
still
can run the test. It should still fail in the same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool.
And so now we can
Do another split.
well, we can do I forget, does the string have, I know file has dot lines.
Oh, actually, before we do that, we still have some
Yeah,
refactoring to do. So this is now a song.
sure.
What? Oh, there we
But
go. Yeah, no collision there. Okay. And then, sorry,
okay.
you're going to say something.
I was going to say, so string has a specific method to do exactly what we want, which is dot lines. So we can do tsv songs dot lines, and that will give us a stream of strings, which each one representing a line.
Do a var.
No, we're gonna do something right on it. I kind of want to do this as a prepare. I'm not sure if it's worth it. I was gonna say let's do what is it, dot first or find first. Oh, it returns an optional. That's going to be painful. All right, let's not do that. I was going to say let's do a find first, and it basically still only parses the first one.
Oh,
More
and then
compare like, but I think we can jump right to it. So what we want to do is pretty much a map. So we want to use the parse song method to do a map. So we'll do a map. Yeah. And what we're going to do is inside the, yeah, that's good. Inside that, let's create a lambda of just s arrow, and then that'll be our string. And so we can say parse song s,
oh,
the method. Yeah. And we can let it turn it into a method handle. I just forgot. Is it going to be this : parse song? Is that what it's going to do?
so let's see. Control Alt T. Is that right? No. That's
No, just hit Alt Enter.
Oh, Alt Enter. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
so it is.
that was right.
Yeah, it was right. I think you didn't hit Enter. No. Now you got to be on the orange part in the parse song.
Ah. This parse
Yep.
song. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then after the map, we can just do a to list. And then return that and get rid of the rest of the method. Now you can just say dot return.
Oh, return. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Does dot return?
Yeah.
Find out.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of all this.
Hey there, One Syria. Welcome.
Howdy. Did we say hi to Tukes?
Yes, I said I did. You did.
Oh, okay. I was probably so busy.
You were very rude.
Hi, Tukes. Didn't you know that's my real name? Rude boy. No, kidding.
So I think this will pass. If not, we'll get more information, but I think this will pass. Oh.
Ooh.
What did we do wrong? So
That's a tough one to visually parse.
yeah, and this is sort of oh wait, are these actually this? Let's see. So oh, it's missing
Joy.
It's missing joy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right? Is the input right?
So let's
So
see.
we
Can
got
we
a blank
turn
release type.
on? Let's see. How do we turn on being able to see tab characters? That's settings, right?
I usually just go to actions and see where that is.
Ah.
think you can say something like show white space or something. Yeah. Active editor show white space is the first one.
Ah. Now, actually, this is interesting. Do I hit enter or can I do like an arrow to make it?
I don't know. I usually just click this one with the mouse.
Oh, really? I'm
'Cause
gonna hit
yeah,
enter, see what happens.
I don't do
Ah,
very
just hitting
often.
enter did it.
Oh, okay, good to
So I
know.
didn't even have to hit the mouse. Sweet. Okay, so now we can see it.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, you can't really see these small ones. 1, 2, 3, 6. Well, actually, that might be wrong.
Hmm.
I'm going to do something. Give me a second. That might be a little bit visually easier to deal with than that.
Well, I was going to say, instead of us inspecting it, let's write another test.
Yeah.
So let's
Either way.
grab line 50 and put it in basically a copy of a test we've already got that tests one line. So we can grab the one with four. So so that one has 4 themes. I would say duplicate that first one.
Does Control D only work for a line? It doesn't work for a whole method,
That works
does it?
for whatever's selected. So if nothing's
Selected or so if
so
I
if
do
yeah, so if you select
this,
the whole test,
I have to literally select the whole test.
right? So it's either the current line.
Or
If nothing is selected, it will do the current line.
so
If
if I
you
do
have anything selected, it will duplicate whatever is selected.
sweet. So if I do this and then hit Control D,
Yeah.
it duplicated the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then we should probably move this down closer to where we're working. What do we call this one?
Parse another song. I mean, this is
A temporary test.
well, it might not be temporary. It might expose some issue.
Right.
That
I guess
might
let's just name it crudely like that for now. Whoa. Overload?
You must have hit the wrong key.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to grab the Joey Ramone line.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I wonder if it's a multi-line issue. I wonder if it's a white space issue of some sort. No, it's actually just not picking up the theme. Everything else is right. Oh, you renamed the variable, so you gotta fix 51.
Yeah. But I wasn't sure how far we're going to go. What you were thinking of doing. So your thought was to, okay, put in, I was just being mechanical driver at that point. I wasn't thinking. So your
Oh,
thought
that's fine.
is
I was actually just thinking out loud. Let's just run this test. We expect it to fail, but I'm curious what the actual parsing is.
just this test?
Yeah.
Okay.
The rare time we run a single test.
I know. On this date at 9:21 Pacific time.
So let's see what the actual was. So the actual artist, song title, release type empty. So it got that right.
Huh.
But when we ran all of them, so let's run all the tests. So we expect this one
To continue to
fail.
fail.
Yeah.
Oh, I ran latest, not.
Yes.
Oh, my bad.
Hey, Surya, we're building an application called the Song Themes app. And right now, what we're doing is we're working on the parsing. Since we want to bulk import songs in a tab delimited format, we're basically test driving the parsing of that. So the actual Oh, wait, I think. Wait, can we look at the test?
Sure.
The multiple song test. Can you scroll down? Is our actual correct? I mean, our expected? Oh, our expected is wrong.
Ah. Oh. Dang! I see what we did.
We probably did a copy
And
paste
paste. That's probably
or
what we did.
duplicate. I'm like, because like that the actual is actually right.
Okay, let's rerun.
Yeah.
Dang. Ooh. Still failed.
Um,
Now was that just?
well, let's look at the scroll down a bit to the other part of the error message on the bottom. Keep going. So let's see. There's a parsing problem with the song title.
Yeah. A Wonderful World.
Once again, our expected is wrong. The song is "What a Wonderful World," but your expectation is wrong.
Yep. That was definitely a copy paste error. Yeah, because I noticed this was farther to the right
Yeah,
than this
yeah,
one
yeah. That's what I
here.
noticed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where
I think that. Sorry, keep going. I was going to say something about. How about you go?
I was just gonna say, like, it would be nice if a search A could be a little bit more. Actually, wait, no. Can you do the click to see difference? There's that button there, the
Oh
link
yeah.
there at the bottom.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's actually what we
That would
needed to
have made
do.
our life
Yeah,
easier.
yeah. All right. I forgot that was
I mean,
there. I was actually like, oh, I wish it was there. And it's like, oh, wait, it is there. So you were
yeah,
going to
that's
say something?
yeah. I was gonna say that's the disadvantage of trying to deal with this, to me, ugly tab delimited string. I know that's what our input is, but it does make
Well,
things
so
error prone.
we can turn it from the invisible tab characters and use the escape T that we've been using elsewhere. And that might make it,
Mm,
in one sense, it makes it a little bit harder to read, but it makes it much more clear where the tabs are.
yeah, it's true.
But all right, let's run it, and then we can delete that temporary test
The,
because we now expect it to pass. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
cool.
So we can delete that test.
Yep.
Yep. Awesome.
Well, since we had that learning about it difficult to read, and it seems like a good time to do a replace with
Yeah, you can
escape
just do a
tab.
total search and replace in the file.
Yeah. Nope. Wrong shortcut.
Yeah,
I thought I was in Sublime. What is search and replace in Control R? Oh,
Control R. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so we want to replace. Does the tab, if I hand type in the tab character, will that go in? No, it's going to move.
Yeah, it's gonna
I need
move.
to select one. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm double clicking.
you can't double click on white space
Oh, yeah, that
be-
makes sense.
because
Yeah, yeah.
it's trying to help you.
Right.
Yeah, replace all.
Yeah, you're braver than me. I was like, should I do that?
That's
Let's
what
run a
undo is
while.
for.
Yeah, true. Yep, it
Awesome.
still pass.
All right, let's commit.
Hey. So we got that test passing, but are we really done with multiple songs?
Well, let's go back out a level and see what our service test looks like. I don't think we had. I think we decided that there was kind of no point in writing a multiple
Right.
line one heat at this level because it was pretty much passing it directly down. So, um, I mean, I think we're done. If you wanted to change this test and change line 53 to be multiple rows, I'd be fine with that. Um, just to
Does
sort
it
of
get us
make
anything?
sure.
Oh, to make sure.
Just that it's now actually uh, importing multiple songs at this level. I mean, it doesn't get us anything in terms of driving any code,
Right.
but it does sort of match the typical what typically we'd want the import songs to do.
Is there any? Is there an automated way to make this a multi-line, or you just got to manually do it?
I don't know. You'd have to hit Alt Enter and find out.
Ah, good idea. Split into declaration and assignment. Nah, I don't think
Yeah, it
any of
doesn't look
those.
like it.
Okay. So, oh, interesting.
Um, I wonder if you do
Go like this.
that. No, I was
Do
gonna
what I.
say if you do what you just did,
Okay.
and then what is it suggesting? Is it just suggesting removing the two double quotes if you go up to the orange?
Oh, that one.
No, what on the
Oh, you mean
orange?
this one?
Yeah.
That orange. Okay.
Yes. Okay, it's just gonna say remove. Does it offer anything else? No. Okay. All right. So yeah, just manually do it.
So it's 3.
Yeah.
Ah, now it's thinking
Well, it basically auto completed the
that, right.
closing triple.
There's going to be
Oh man,
Rick.
Commodore 256. I feel you, as my son would say.
Oh,
There's a lot of I I I, I totally get that. Um, I wish I wish I had a good answer uh, other than some cliche of hang in there or something like that. Because I'm telling you, I mean, this is you know this is why I'm independent and probably unemployable because I can't deal with corporations. I know that's maybe not what you're looking for, but at least you're not alone.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's update our uh
Assertion.
yeah, let's update our assertion.
Yeah, I'm going to copy. We got to make sure I don't make a mess of it.
Oh my
Luckily, I just
god.
added the number 2.
Yes. To everything.
Everything,
Yeah.
even the theme.
Even the theme is now theme 12. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I wanted to keep it simple.
A few weeks ago, I learned that the customer of mine is still using visual age, still using small talk. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Wow.
That's impressive.
I worked for a company around that time frame that was doing production small talk.
Working at telco is Leo's Pascal. Yeah. Well, telco is one of those. I did some work for a telco way back when. It's like it's talk about legacy. Like wow. Does this pass?
Let's find out.
Ooh.
Oh, it didn't. Index 1 out of bounds.
That is surprising, but good.
Yep, that's what we're looking for. Is what went wrong.
So probably what let's see. So let's go take a look at import songs on our song service. Run on Windows Server talking to DB2. I've done some DB2 stuff, not on mainframe, but so
My latest client still has DB2 as their on a
yeah.
mainframe.
Yeah, when I worked for the insurance software company, DB2 was one of the ones we supported. Though to be honest, I don't think we ever actually. Maybe we had one customer, but IBM was paying us to maintain that. I don't know, and I think we at some point stopped doing it because a lot of our customers, they were pretty much either Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server. So what's going on here? We create the parser, we parse songs, and then for each we do add song. Hmm. And
Well, let's.
so we're getting the out of bounds though in the parser itself. So yeah, so let's take a look at that. Oh, we have so this is an edge case because
What is that 10 there for?
um,
On
that
line 17.
that is how many columns we want to parse.
Right.
And since you just mentioned that,
Look at how
perhaps
many columns we have here. One,
well,
two,
no, I was
three.
going to say perhaps we should make that code more self-evident.
Yes, that too.
Uh, so let's change that 10 and let's make it a constant. Unless you have a better idea, but constant's the first thing
Yeah.
so Alt Command Alt C.
No. Oh, right.
C for constant. Um, max columns to parse. It's a good start.
Are we doing screaming caps?
Yes. Even though some folks have argued you don't need that anymore because the IDEs color things, like it's idiomatic. It's been around for as long as Java's been around. I'm not changing it.
Yeah.
There's certain things I will push against and change, but there are other things I will not.
I mean, the advantage of that one, it actually is screaming at you, which is
Yeah.
kind of important.
So
Yeah, screaming cat's one of my favorites.
yeah. Yeah, all the names for these things like snake case and kebab case and things
Kebab
like that
case.
are amusing. Yeah, there's a lot of old tech that was good. These days it's optimized for cost. So yeah, so let's write a failing test because I'm guessing what the problem is, and we should write a test to prove that. I'm guessing it's because it's actually trying to parse that third row. That's my guess.
Third row. This?
Yeah, which is basically empty.
And when you say write a failing test, even though we have a failing test, do you mean a failing test closer?
Yeah, a failing test that's closer. Yeah.
Got it. So we'll go back to tab separated. Close this puppy. Well, what's interesting though is if we had here parsing multiple songs, we had the same thing. So why is that one not?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, we're testing something different though.
No, but it was failing during the parse. So
Oh, you're
yeah, so
right.
why is that passing? And the other one is go back to the song service test.
I think it's number of columns data. 1,
Oh,
2,
maybe you're
3,
right.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's only 9.
Right, but we're only processing 9, so that shouldn't be a problem.
because it's max.
Yeah, basically it's what that does is it says after that many columns, treat the last column as the rest of the line. And so we basically are saying that, um, so it's failing on column 1. So
Is it? Let me go see. Index 1 for out of bounds for length 1.
so there's one column that it was able to parse from whatever line it's processing. That line number is out of date because we inserted some code. So if you want to
Right.
rerun the tests,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the song title
it
column.
was yeah, it was 22. Yeah. So here's an interesting point. Um, we could write some more tests, or we could do like a system out print, or we could fall into the debugger to figure out exactly what's going on. I tend to avoid debuggers and print statements, but it might be the most efficient at this point, just to
Yeah, I'm trying to
see what.
think of how to write a different test or how. I'm okay with that. I just was trying to give it a few more
Yeah,
moments
because
to
I
see
don't,
that.
because what we can do is we could do the same thing. We could basically copy 53 to 56 on the top, and feed that directly into um, our closer test.
Oh, I see.
So I know there's some comments in the chat, but we're deep inside debugging this, so we'll get to those comments. So don't worry.
I think there's only one multi. Yeah, so it'll be this test.
Right.
And I'm going to comment that out for now. And rerun, right? Oh, wait
Yeah.
a second. No,
So
the asserts.
the
Probably not.
asserts will fail. It'll certainly get past the has size of 2, and if the rest of it will obviously fail. But the question will be, will this actually complete the parsing, or will we see the same
Same error. Yeah.
array index out of bounds?
Yeah. Good point. Yep.
Okay, so there's something about this data setup that is causing a problem, which is great. And this is why I know somebody asked about why not use debuggers, is because I always want tests that recreate the problem, because then we have a test, and then assuming we fix the problem, we now have a test that is exercising that specific problem. And so there's something different about this data that is causing the problem that that our sort of more realistic data is not having a problem with. So let's duplicate. Let's put this in a test of its own, because this is clearly a different
At the tidying
scenario.
level. At the
Yeah,
tidying level, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, yeah.
I guess I could have duplicated the whole test.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to do, but it's fine.
And then restore this back
Yeah,
to
restore that back to what was.
healthiness.
And I think we only care about has size of 2. I don't think we care about the content just yet, because
Yeah, it seems like
right now we won't get that far anyway. So
yeah, it's a bridge too far at the moment.
yeah.
Whoops. That seem about right?
Yes, let's run it, and it should fail. Okay, great. We've got
Feel the same
got a
way.
failing test. So just want to catch up in chat a little bit.
Sure.
So Limanox asks, are you learning Spring for the first time?
Spring, I would say I had some previous experience, but definitely on the thin side. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Mike doesn't code every day like I do, so so that's what, that's why it looks like that's why it looks like I'm navigating a bit more, only
yeah.
because I do this almost every single day.
Yeah.
So Commodore 256, yeah, so what I would say is that, yeah, I mean, as things get more complex, as we build more and more layers, as we build larger and larger systems, I think in a lot of cases, some of those layers are completely unnecessary. I feel like, in some cases, slightly the reverse, but like having developers have to understand Kubernetes in detail seems like a ridiculous waste of time. Um, but I totally get, like, if you're interested in sort of uh, the microprocessor. I mean, I grew up coding 6502 assembly, and 8286 assembly, which was not fun. I totally get that, like, as abstractions have built up, you sort of lose touch with what's going on underneath. And business applications and things like that are no longer they're never going to go back. But there are embedded systems, and so so if you dislike abstractions, there's certainly places in the industry, not as much, but there are places where you will still program and code against microprocessors, right? There is all the stuff that's in that first layer, and so I would say, have you looked at that? Have you looked at embedded systems, or just
Device drivers.
yeah, device drivers, all the stuff that is that lowest level of abstraction. There's still people who have to code that. That's still not done
And
by
the
magic.
microcode. I mean, I don't know who's there
Yeah.
probably aren't that many people in the world that do that, but somebody does.
Yeah, but I mean,
Uh,
there's lots of stuff, like IoT, right? IoT is huge, right? Internet
right.
of
Yeah.
Things, putting all the smarts at the edge of the systems. That stuff is, a lot of it is still done in, some of it's done probably in higher level languages, but you're coding in the small because you're coding, even if it's a higher level language, you're still coding at the device as opposed to on some virtual machine and container in a virtual machine on a rack in some big data center.
Yeah. You can still see the metal. Air
Yeah,
quotes, see the
yeah,
metal.
yeah. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Hey, Becca Chichua. Uh, let's say I have a shop domain. The domain has address, which can either be online or physical. Uh, use interface address as subclass for online and physical. Yeah, I mean, I would say that um, probably just don't want to use inheritance. So you could, but if they're not substitutable, because what does it mean to ship? Then you'd have to do something else. I think we'd probably need to dive into more details. And so if you're not already a member of my Discord, that's a great question to ask in the Discord, because that's the kind of thing where we can look at code and provide some feedback on concrete code, because it's easy to talk in the abstract and still kind of not understand that kind of thing. So Cattle says the whole DevOps thing is shifting responsibilities of infrastructure. Yeah, and I think that is not what was intended by the DevOps movement. The idea was that there still are ops people, sysadmins or SREs or whatever you want to call them, who provide higher level abstractions so that developers can run their apps in sort of the 90% case, like operate their apps in the 90% case, deploy them there on their own without having to get system admins involved, right? It used to be, and it's still true in lots of places, like, hey, sysadmin, can you install this new software? And they go run a script or something. And so larger firms should be providing platforms that raise the level of abstraction, not lower it. And I think it's simply that that developers like fashion, developers like shiny new things, and developers like complexity. And management is incapable of reining those folks in. The fact is that that hurts the business. But as G Plus says, software is so wildly profitable on a per developer basis that we can write crappy code and crappy systems and still make trillions of dollars. And until that changes, there's no incentive to improve this stuff.
I think wasn't part of the DevOps thing also related to having less of a separation of throwing things over the wall as
Yeah,
far as sort
yeah,
of ownership in
yeah,
the
yeah.
positive use of the term,
Right,
not in the pejorative use of the term.
right, right. Yeah, it was supposed to, we were supposed to because the old days, the sysadmins would fight any change and would make it really hard, and you'd have to have all sorts of quality gates before you could be allowed to install the software on the live system, because sysadmins don't want change because that means risk and things failing, uh, and devs want to get their stuff out, and so it's that they're at odds, and so the whole DevOps idea is let's actually work together to fulfill both sides. um, Netflix's, the idea of you build it, you run it, did not mean that developers should also become sysadmins. That was not the intent at all. But if you're a developer who's writing applications and you are dealing with figuring out how to configure stuff for pods on Kubernetes, something is broken somewhere. It's broken, and that's all I'll say about that. It's just broken. But corporations are broken. So lots of conversation chat. I don't think we can keep up. So
Wow, look at all that.
yeah, it was like, oh wow, there are lots of messages. So as I mentioned, join Discord, like these kinds of discussions, right? Lots of folks to hang out with and talk about these things. And yeah, I mean, unless you want to go back in time to when things were simpler, which unfortunately is not really possible. There's always going to be stuff like even the 8086 processor. Very few people knew what was going on underneath that, and these days you just can't know. The processors themselves are too utterly complex to truly understand. Like it used to be you could sort of predict how many cycles this code would take, and now that's just impossible, and you just have to say that's the way it is. Yeah, Wheatlaw is warning. So thanks, Wheatlaw. All right, so we found that this failed, right?
Yes,
So
it was failing here.
yeah. So what do we want to do at this point? Do we want to say, okay, we need to hop into the debugger, or is there's something else we can do?
It's failing on the song title column.
Oh wait,
Do you see something?
why are those tabs double escaped?
That I don't know. Was the original test that way? Let's go back over here.
Yeah, okay, so that's the problem. There actually are no tabs in our input.
How did that happen?
I don't know. At some point, I don't know. At some point they got added. But that's good because
Yeah.
this is a test case where what if the rows don't have enough data? And that's exactly what's going on here. In a sense, there is only one column, and that's why it's failing on the second one. It's failing on trying to get the second column.
So get
So
rid
if
of.
you replace that, and you can use the Alt J thing, and then if you hit the left arrow, and then hit delete,
Okay.
and then escape to get out of multi-caret mode, we now expect this to pass. Yes, Wheatlaw, we absolutely are parsing TSV data using /t. Why? What else would we do? And
Shame on you.
I'm not being facetious. Like, what else? Why would I? What else should we do? I'm not going to use scanner or anything. It works great. Why use anything more complicated? So now the other test is failing because it has the same problem.
Yeah.
That's not how you parse it. That's absolutely how you parse it. Is there another way to parse TSV that I'm unaware of? It's tab delimited. So you split on tabs. Now, if you're going to say that, well, there could be tabs in the actual data, I'm going to say that no, we have the requirement that there's not. No, we decided that it was better to use one line of code to do a split than to bring in an entire library. So I'm going to 100% disagree with you here, Wheatlaw. We're customizing this exactly fit for use, and we're test driving it so it exactly covers what we need. So I'm going to totally disagree with that. And you can watch past episodes. We're not going to relitigate that argument. All right. So our test should now be passing because we actually have columns in our data.
They all passed.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
I think we should. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say? I was thinking this needs a better name.
Well, now we know what the problem is. And these are the sad cases that we need to cover, which is basically what if there aren't enough columns? What do we do? So we should probably modify this test to sorry, no dark mode when I'm pairing. Sorry about that. I should turn that request off. Sorry about that. And why are you not working? There we go. I swear, the Twitch UI is the Stream Manager UI is just seems to getting worse, and they fired a whole bunch of people, so I don't anticipate it getting better anytime soon.
Oh, ouch.
So the magic index, I mean, at some point you got to translate numerically oriented columns to the actual content, and we know what that format is. It's a format that we've defined and that we are literally testing. So you're going to have magic numbers, or what seems like magic numbers.
I mean, is that who was it that said that?
Limanox.
Oh, yeah. I guess I don't know if we did talk about it earlier that there's at some point we're looking at here's what the spreadsheet looks like at the moment.
Right.
Go away, Dropbox. And the idea was at some point to start checking on column names.
Right.
To not be so magic numbery, but it's a different magic number. It's a literal string, but it isn't as obtuse as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we're starting with the simpler case for now, and we'll slowly grow it as we need it.
Yeah, and admittedly, we could have just jumped directly to let's use the Excel spreadsheet import libraries, and do it that way. Um, but what would be the fun in that? So so let's write some failing tests. So let's turn that test into basically um, and sorry, not failing tests, but sort of unhappy case tests, because we've done all the happy cases. I think we were basically done with our happy cases, and now we have some unhappy cases.
And do we want to modify this one, which was used temporarily, and just rename
Yeah,
it
so
to our
let's
first?
modify that one to be our first unhappy case of not
What should
enough
we?
not enough columns.
And actually, let's figure out what the assert is, and then we'll name the test. Unless you have a name at the top of your head.
Um, handles rows with not enough columns, for whatever we mean by handle, which we'll figure out.
Okay. And you want to just drop one, drop a middle one, or
Um, I would say let's drop them all and just have one column.
that is a simpler looking test, that's for sure.
And I don't even think it needs to be multi-line. I think it's basically just a row with one column.
With the tab or without?
Um, I would say without.
So now this assert, just start with simple
Um,
or
well, we
something.
know we're not going to expect that, and we can see how it
Oh,
fails, but
right.
we have to think
Yeah,
about like what right. We're now back at in
right.
TDD. What do we want it to do, and basically how is it going to handle this? We can run it just to see, and we expect that it'll fail on 22. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we expected. Uh, yeah, Leminox, we may get there, but because we're working with a fairly fixed thing, what they say, a bespoke app, we get to make things simpler by not having to read the headers and then match things up. But we could certainly do that.
And like right now, I'm going to be the only customer importing
Right,
data.
right,
But when it gets to the point, which is you have to look in the earlier recordings, but when we get to the point where we start opening it up to let other people contribute, then at that point we'll probably have to think about making it a little bit more robust or
yeah,
not.
or
And
not,
then we just see what kind of failure modes we're getting from people that are submitting, and then go, okay,
right.
we'll solve that one. We won't solve
Yeah,
this one.
so it's pretty much a Yagni. We're not writing more code than we absolutely need for a minimum lovable app.
Yeah.
Um, so what do we want to do if the parse fails?
Well, we want to ultimately let the user know this is badly formed.
So this is always the interesting case of any kind of processing any kind of input from the outside world when the outside world could give you bad data. Uh, there's sort of the two typical options, which is the throw an exception or change the result type, where you could return um, either a successful parsed result or a failure message. And that's the result mechanism that .NET uses a lot, or the either more functional kind of thing, or the way Go does it, which is always return an error code that you always have to check, which I understand why they did that. I don't like that either. But in this case, since it's not entirely unexpected that we would get bad data, I would say we go with the result mechanism,
Hmm.
which is sort of optional, like in the sense that it returns either here's the parsed song or information about why we couldn't parse it.
So that's interesting. I would have thought exception, but rather than talking about whether to do exception or not, I have a question more about how would that be implemented? Where you're proposing be implemented? Will we do it as an object that includes a list of songs and a result text of some sort? So sort of like rolling our own optional, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Although this is it's we're at the parse individual song level, so we in a sense we're going to create an either or a maybe or a pair, which will either have, if it's successful, it will have the song, and we can get it out of the song, out of that object, like we do an optional. Or if it's failed, then we can get the failure information, which would be some kind of text message saying, we're in enough columns. Here's what we found.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying it's not at this level, it's going to be at this level,
Right.
not parsing songs, but parsing
Well,
a single song.
which will affect the caller it's as well. So it will no longer be list of song either, um, because we need to gather up
Bubble it up.
all of it,
Yeah.
bubble up the errors. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I've not done that technique, so I'm game to give it a roll.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good alternative to exceptions, because here, um, you would end up with a similar result, because if you threw an exception, we actually are throwing an exception, right? We're not
Well,
throwing it.
yeah.
The runtime is throwing it. We could catch that. Um, and the question is then, where would we catch it? Would we wrap it around the entire innards of parse song? Because we wouldn't want to do it at a higher level because we'd lose information. So we'd want to do it inside of the parse song method, because that's where we know what was the input and which one of these columns failed. Um, and so we could catch the exception and then generate the thing, and then, well, then what would we return? We can't return a song, so we'd have to throw another exception.
Right.
So we
A
basically catch
repackaged
the
exception.
yeah, so we'd catch the exception in parse song, translate it into a different exception, throw that, let parse songs plural or the parse method, then throw another exception, which we'd have to catch in our application, uh, and then basically translate and figure out, oh, there's an exception, and extract the message, and that's just messier. Um, uh,
Would you have to do the second level? In other words, parse song, you catch the runtime exception, repackage it into a, we'll just call it a domain level exception, and then not then parse parse just doesn't even catch it, just lets it keep going up, bubbling up the
yeah,
chain.
so it depends on, do you want it to stop processing completely as soon as it hits any kind of error? So if the first row has an error, do you want to just stop there and say, I can't continue? Or do you want to process all the data and say which rows I couldn't import? And so it sort of depends on your expectations about bad data. So
Hmm.
if you've got 1,000 rows and it fails on number 5, you have no idea if 6 is good. And so you throw an exception for 5 and stop, you fix it, and now it fails on 6. And so you go fix that, and then it fails on 34, and then it fails on that. Whereas if it could have continued processing, it could say, hey, there's a problem with 5, 6, 34, 88, and 994. So it depends on what you want. If you think as soon as we hit corruption, it means there's no point in continuing, then I would say, yeah, then there's no point. Then you just throw an exception right here in parse song, and basically blow up the entire thing and do nothing with parse. It'll get blown away.
Well, I like the idea of getting specific. It just also seems more complexity for such a small, we're just getting started kind of app versus just blowing up and going, okay, start over. I'm not saying there's a reason
Yeah,
not to do the either or thing,
yeah.
but I'm just thinking that I mean, you could always start that way and then make it more sophisticated with time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. If you as the customer say, look, it's unlikely I've got any errors, and if I do, there's only going to be a couple, and I'm fine with just failing as soon as I hit it. We can go that way and basically then say, in that case, it makes sense to just throw an exception in parse song. So figure out if there's the right number of columns. If not, throw an exception, um, and that's probably good enough.
If we wanted to try I'm going to call it the optional approach.
Call it
It's
the
not optional.
either approach if
Either?
you're going to
Okay.
give it a name. Yeah, because that's
Um,
that's that's what's commonly used in other more functional languages.
gotcha. So if we're going to go the either approach, we could still use that and then still behave as if, hey, we got the first error, we're done. Or is that going to make it more complicated?
Well, no, it's pretty much, do we throw an exception in parse song, or do we return a different type where you have to check that something went wrong?
Right.
That's the difference. Because if we're basically going to, um, then what happens if parse song returns an either where it says it was unsuccessful? Uh, then what do we do from the parse method to indicate that there was a failure?
Right. 1 second. My son has a question for
Yeah.
me.
Actually,
Oh, we have break time anyway?
yeah, we're at
Oh,
break
well,
time anyway. So let's
we're
take a
way
let's take
past
a
break
break
time.
and we'll come back and see what we decide to do.
Sounds good.
We'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be back and continue from there. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. Oh, looks like I've got sun shining in. It's been rainy here. I forgot that we actually have sun. So just a reminder of a couple of things. One is the book club. We finished our previous book, Learning Domain-Driven Design, and we're starting our next book. Voting has closed for that, but we still haven't picked a book because basically we have to have sort of a runoff. But if you're interested in the book club, join the Discord, like with lots of things. If you want to chat more about this stuff, talk with other folks who are interested in design and TDD and architecture and things like that, join the Discord. The book club, we meet on Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is currently, until daylight saving time ends, is currently 6 p.m. UTC. And we spend 2 hours on Zoom talking about whatever book we've selected, a chapter or two. And I'll be announcing which book we're actually going to read, and then we'll start up again with the new book. So that's that. And let's get back to the code. All right.
So I think we left off deciding either to use either or throw an exception.
Right.
I was kind of leaning toward either just because I've not done that, and it'd be a fun to do a different technique. Though I do think, first failure, we can just say, sorry, badly formed. TF.
So as much as I'd be interested in doing either here as well, I think we can
Punt.
Yagni it and say, well, we don't really need it, so let's just do the right thing, or the minimal thing, not
For the
right,
current
but
situation.
for the current situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I've been calling it either, but really it's more a result thing. So yeah, but we're just going to throw an exception. Yeah, you're right, because the either stuff there, especially in Java, Java's not quite got the power, and result would be more than sufficient. But we're going to go even the cheaper route of just going with throw an exception.
And you
Do it
said
for
result is
do it
the
for
structure that C# is using?
Yeah, yeah. So .NET has
.NET.
the result pattern. Yeah, and it's kind of a shame that, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a whole interesting area of error handling. Like checked exception it's interesting to look at it from sort of a type standpoint. It's like actually every method has two return types: the one that is stated in the signature and the one that is unstated, which is a runtime exception. So yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Right. Yeah. I'll defer to your knowledge of that stuff, Wheatlow. All right. So then our expectation. So what's our expectation here then?
Throws an exception.
Yeah.
Is it throws?
No. So what we want is what we want is assert that there are a couple ways that we can do it. We can do assert that thrown by.
Like this?
Yeah.
First one, second.
It doesn't matter. And then we give it a lambda. So the thing that's going to fail is actually if you just inline songs there. That's what we want. Oh, it doesn't want to do it because it's failing. All right, you can just grab the parse stuff. And you need to turn that into a lambda. So it's not going to take a parameter, so you just put empty parens.
Get rid of this junk here. Like that? You say empty parens.
So instead of the S that you have, just put an open and closed paren.
Ah, I see. Gotcha. And we get rid of this.
So there's sort of so what's interesting about a search A is always that it has lots and lots of sugar. There's lots of different ways. There's often two, if not several, different ways to do the same thing. So here we can say assert that thrown by, and you give it the code, and then you say is exactly instance of. So you can delete 53, yeah, and then at the end of 54, we're going to do is exactly instance of. And then we give it a reference to an exception class.
What do we want to call that exception? Can't
For
fly
now,
songs.
for now, we can say illegal argument exception as a placeholder, and then we can replace it with a more domain-specific one. So the other way we could phrase this is assert that illegal argument exception is thrown by. Let's write that one just so we can compare and contrast.
Yeah. Is it?
It's assert that, all one word, assert that illegal. Yep. That first one. Yep. And then
The same.
And then dot is thrown by. And then your lambda.
We got to practice using Control W.
Hey there, Oye. Oye, Beltalota says hi. Welcome. Yeah, so I think in this case, if we were going to leave it as illegal argument exception, the second one I think is nicer.
Yeah.
But since we're probably going to change the actual type, the first one is probably going to be more flexible for us.
Yeah. Okay, dump the second one.
Yeah, so let's dump the second one. And there is also assert that exception of type. So we can. I actually covered this in my search A talk where I spent an hour like going through all these variations. So you can say assert that exception of type, and here we can say illegal argument exception is thrown by. So it's basically like, which one do you want first?
I kind of like the second one better.
Yeah, I think the second one is if you say it out loud, kind of feels more like what you would, how you would talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We just went through 3 different ways of doing this.
Yep.
That's
As
awesome.
I said, if there's nothing but variations of ways to do things with the search A. And end of functor 0, if you're asking, are all these different variations of assert that part of the standard API? These are all part of the assert J library. So assert that exception of type, illegal argument exception is thrown by that code. I think this will fail because it's currently throwing an array index out of bounds, but
let's find out.
At least it will fail in a way that is closer to what we want. Yeah. So now it got an exception, which is we expected, but it didn't get the right one. So we need to now do that.
So would we change the assert to array index out of bounds, or go to our custom assert? In other words, go to a green and then...
Yeah, so if we were doing TCR or something like that, I would say, yes, let's start out with what we know it does, get that to pass, and then change our expectation. But since we're using predictable TDD, we predicted that this is what would happen. So in a sense, that's a passing. That's a success. And so now we can move to the next step of making it throw the exception that we want.
Okay. So what would we like to call this?
Well,
Oh, sorry.
first we want to get this test to pass. So
Oh,
we need to actually catch the problem before
going
before
to
it
the
gets to
custom one. Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sweet will ask, is there a practical benefit to what?
That'd
Are
be
you
my
asking
question.
about the variety of assertions or something else? Okay, so let's make the test pass. I think what we can do is we can basically have a guard clause, which is verify that the number of columns we parsed uh, is a certain number. Yeah, there's benefit. I mean, to be quite honest, search A is all about having different ways of phrasing things depending on what you prefer. And so some people prefer assert that thrown by, and some people prefer assert that exception of type. Um, Sometimes they put out stuff and it's like, no, I like it better this way. And so there's a lot of sometimes I think almost too much syntactic sugar. Uh, the downside is having a lots of choice is not always a good thing. So it can be confusing with all the possibilities. But that is the nature of a search A, and I actually like it. Yeah. So what is our expectation for the number of columns?
Didn't we decide 10?
Well, 10 was the maximum we wanted to
Maximum.
parse, but we so how many do we expect? Do we expect 10?
Hmm.
Do
I'm
we
looking at,
just care about a minimum number that if it's more, we don't care? So I think our implication was as long as we get at least 9 columns, we're good. And then we ignore everything after the ninth column.
yeah. This is going to be interesting as we change what we're importing, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
So it's a guard clause, so less than 9?
Well, we're going to throw an exception if it's great. If it's a guard clause, then we're going to say if the length is greater than 9. Oh, sorry. You're right. Less
No.
than 9. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And that's a magic number, which we'll deal with in a bit.
Yeah. You can do THR and then let it expand the rest.
Oh, cool.
And then you can do IAE. Make sure you get the right one. That's the wrong one.
Ah.
Yeah, they're both
Yes.
have the same thing. So I usually do IAR and then E
Ah.
to disambiguate. Yep.
Just a message.
Yeah.
IL-ARG. I like that. IL-ARG.
Usually if you type IAR, that's more than enough to get it to disambiguate. But yes, ILARG is also
And it's funnier.
yeah.
So we run the test?
So do we think this fixes it?
Let's see. There's only one column, so that is certainly less than 9. After the split. Good.
Yeah.
Are you seeing something I'm not?
No, I was just going to answer. If it's greater than 9, we're fine. We only look at the first 9 columns, and so if there's 10 or 12, we don't care because it's certainly possible you could import data that has more than that, and we just ignore anything after the ninth column. So yeah, so that's cool.
Refactor.
Yeah, so let's refactor. Funny different development.
what do we want to call this constant?
So
Minimum number of
so
columns.
my preference here would be to not bother making a constant out of the number, but to hide the number altogether behind a named guard clause.
Like this.
Since we can actually extract the whole thing, the whole if.
Oh,
So the way I tend to do it is basically
oh, require or something like that.
yeah, require. We could say require
9 columns.
9 or at least 9 columns. If we come up with a more abstract way of phrasing that, we can figure that out, but this is at least exactly what it does.
I made it static again.
Oh, that's weird. I've noticed sometimes IntelliJ had a bad habit at some point of a bug where it would constantly flip on the checkbox for making stuff static. And so the problem is that once you check that box, it's on until you uncheck it. So why don't we undo it and then re-extract so we can sort of reset that setting?
Yeah. Okay, so if we do extract, it's going to go straight.
So what you want to do is do the shortcut again. So do it twice.
And then do it a second time?
Yep.
Oh, that brings up the
dialogue. Yeah. And this is why I actually think in any kind of pairing or group situation, having the dialogue always pop up is, I think, much more clear. But that's where that setting is. So you can uncheck that.
Yeah.
And then we can refactor.
The name.
Yeah, and then you got to fix the name.
Require at least 9 columns.
Yeah, if that happens, then
would you put just sort of keep the guard separate?
I would
Visually?
actually remove the space from 20 because it's a guard for that thing. That's the way I would do it. I feel like that's part of that block.
I like that better. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Astrid, welcome.
Hey, Astrid.
So that was just a refactor, so it should still pass.
Right, which it did.
And now we can go ahead and ratchet up what do we want the exception to actually be.
I don't think that's enough information, though.
I think that's fine.
You think it's fine?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're expecting. And what we'll want to then do is add more information to the actual exception message. So it tells us what the actual data was so that if we get it, we know which row it was on and what the problem was with that row.
So I'll create this guy.
Yes.
Application layer or
this is domain. Are we testing the application layer? Did we not create a domain yet? I forget what packages we've got.
Let's go see. No, we have domain.
Oh, we got domain.
The parser is in application.
Oh, the parser is in application. Actually, that's an interesting thing. Is like, should the parser be in the application? I think we decided that it was in the application and not the adapter. Although still in my head, I would go back and forth. So let's put the exception in the same place where it's going to be thrown from.
Okay, so let's go back.
but let's make sure to put it in the main and not the test directory.
Yeah, I had flipped it the first time.
Yeah.
Application. There we go.
And so we want to make sure that's an exception type.
Oh, right. I'm like, what's going on? Do you just
No, we want a runtime. Otherwise, it'll be checked, and we don't want checked.
oh, right. So now it'll fail if we run because we're not throwing it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Checked exceptions.
And now we passed.
All right.
We want to add information.
Yeah. So I think what I'd want is we'd like some more information, at least what row was it on? And here's where actually where we're throwing it doesn't have that information. So we'll have to figure out what to do. But we could start with the simpler case of, okay, you didn't have at least 9. How many did you have and what was that row data?
Right.
So what we can do is we can add on to after is thrown by, we can add on another assertion, right? Because we shouldn't be changing the code first.
Right. The same here?
Yeah.
Or a new exception?
No, it's part of that. Because we're basically saying this is going to throw this exception and it's going to be with message. And then we can give it the message that we want.
Which in this case is 1, right? Is that what you're thinking? Something along
Something
those
like
lines?
that. Yeah. And also do we want it to display the actual full row data? We actually don't necessarily need that if we have the row number, but it might be useful.
Well, we do this first and then add the row
Sure,
number?
let's do
Because the
this.
row number have to come in from the.
Yep.
Okay, so now this will fail. Whoops. Oh, I did run it. Okay.
Okay. So Astrid mentions, should we mention how many we expected? And maybe that's actually also useful. Even though we know it's 9 now, it may not be 9 in the future.
Right.
Or even if the code says it's 9, the exception is going to be in some log somewhere. We would like that information.
Can we do plus here?
Of course you can do plus. We're probably going to want to convert that to string template, but plus is fine.
Why is it not happy?
So I'm gonna point out that you immediately jumped to an assumption of what the problem was, and we do that all the time. And so let's look at the actual what the compiler is complaining about.
Oh, right.
So what I suggest is going to the exception class and do I forget what the keystroke is. It's override methods. Yeah, Control O. And select the first 2 there. Yep. That's it.
It's all good?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Now you can go back.
Now we're clear.
Right.
And this one's not being used at the moment, which is fine.
Yep.
So now it should pass. I got the space there after.
Yep.
It did. So now, who was it that suggested?
Astrid.
Astrid? Yeah, let's do Astrid's suggestion next. Which was, let's go back to our tests and say number of columns of 1 is 1. it was maximum, right? Maximum.
Well, but should have at least 9.
How's that for a format? Not sure I like the comma, but
I don't feel the need for the colon there because that data is not gonna. That's part of our message. So.
oh, I see. I was thinking of.
I mean, we could pull that out. If we'll see the duplication.
Right.
I don't know. All right, let's watch it fail.
Okay.
All right, failed as expected.
So you're thinking this.
Yeah. And you'll want the comma and
Oops,
space.
forgot the comma. Yeah, comma space. And now if we see if this passes, we're now green again. We can now say, okay, if we want to get rid of the duplication, we could do that.
I don't have a strong feeling about it. Like I'm fine with what it is.
Yeah, I guess when we get to the point where we change the number of columns and we get bit by it, we could go that approach.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things that the compiler and that even tests don't care about. Is the 9 and the word 9 in the method name, and that
Right.
9 in the text string.
Right.
And so the question is would we change that without changing those as well? I could probably be convinced to extract the 9 to a constant, and then replace the string and the number with that constant.
So you're saying this. I'll spell out minimum. So you're saying something like this.
Yeah. So we lol jokes, but I've seen people do this. Like, yes, that was so much more helpful. Yes, you've totally documented the number very well. Thank you very much. But I've seen that, and I'm like, no.
I've totally seen that in commercial production code.
Yeah. So let's. Will IntelliJ suggest to convert that string concatenation stuff to using the string templates? Possibly not, because you might not have enable preview on. Because that's the string template stuff is a preview feature, so we might not have that available. So that's fine. But do a reformat, because that lack of space around the plus at the end is bugging me.
Yeah. It should have bugged me. I didn't notice it. Good catch.
All right. Anything else we want this message to say? I think that's the only other thing.
Oh, the row
would be, do we want to display
the content of the columns.
So this guard clause doesn't have that information. Although it could sort of concatenate the columns that it got. I don't know how useful that would be. And I don't know about you, but what I'd be really interested in is, like, what row was that?
That seems more important than the column.
Yeah. So here's where we're going to have to get a little messy, because our song has no idea what row it's working on.
Right.
The only thing that knows that is here. And even here, we don't actually know it because we're streaming. Um,
Part of me feels Yagni.
well, I think if we're gonna say we're not going to display the row number, then we need to say here's the data that we got in this row. As perhaps as ugly as that is, if you imported 100 rows and it said, oh, not enough columns, I don't know about you, but I'd be pretty annoyed. I'm like, uh, how do I know which one it is? At least if
Right.
it tells you some of the data that it got, then you could at least search for it. So I think it should at least I think it should display what it did find.
Will this all be encapsulated within the message, or is there a this is derived from what runtime exception? Is there another
There's no other place to put this information.
that's okay? There's not a standard spot.
The standard spot is this message.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we would be row contains or song. Let's see, number of columns. He doesn't know what a row is at this point.
Well, it knows it is a row. So I'm fine with rows contains.
Okay. Do we just say this?
Well, it turns out we're actually not reading this from a file. This is going to be copy and paste from the spreadsheet. This is how we got to the tab delimited format. Because when you copy to the clipboard from Excel, at least on Windows, I actually don't know what it does on the Mac. I'm assuming it does the same thing, but that's probably not a good assumption. But at least on Windows, when you copy and paste, that's what it looks like. It's tab delimited. So we actually aren't dealing with files yet.
Yeah. We decided to punt on files because I'm the only customer and it's more work, and let's just start simple. Yeah. So now, was that gonna? Well, I guess we'll find out.
I suspect that it's going to be something different than that, but we'll adjust that.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
We'll use the characterization test method of this is close enough. What does it actually do? And then we'll fix our test to match.
So right now the test is going to fail, period, because we have no row contains.
Right.
So let's let that fail. And so then I feel like we need to start. Make it a little bit easier to grok. Really? Okay, fine.
Here's where I just copy and paste from the test.
Yeah. You mean all the way up to here, or not including the artist?
No, all that. And then
really? Oh, just to get it paused, just to get
a pass, and then we'll replace it.
Okay.
And now let's replace it with the real thing. Yeah. Let's see what I expect it will produce straight brackets around the content, because that's how it does a two-string on arrays, if my memory serves.
Whoa. That's interesting.
Oh, right. Yeah. So actually Wheatlow was right. See, I don't use arrays very much. But you were way closer on Wheatlow than I was in the sense that it dumped the actual internal reference information. So what we actually want to do is, I'm sure there's a method on arrays to do this. So if we call arrays dot, we could do .arg.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. and do arrays dot toString. I think that'll be more what we want. Yes.
So for simplicity's sake, throw the square brackets around it on the test, or
Yeah, because that's what we're going to want. And we might want to update the test to basically have 2 columns.
yes,
To
make
be
it
a little bit
complicated.
more descriptive, sort of give a little bit more, I don't know what you call it.
A little more meat, less.
Something a little bit more that will tell us what happens when there's many.
So what do you think? Have this fail, and then we'll characterize from there.
I think we can change the 1 to a 2, and then we can let it fail. And we should expect it to be artist, comma, song title.
Oh, change. We changing
No, leave
that as well?
that because I expected,
Okay.
but I expect it to fail on that aspect of it.
On that, not on the.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Do you think we should, instead of having generic artist, generic song title, we should have actual songs or
No, I
actual
don't think.
artists and song titles?
I think this is test data, so I actually think it's nice to have generic
Sounds,
kind of things.
sounds good. Now this
I
should
mean, it almost
pass.
doesn't even matter. It could be just, the words 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
All right. We happy with the message?
I kind
So
of would
you,
like the word rows here, but
well, it's not rows, it's columns.
oh, right, columns.
So I think that's pretty obvious from the fact that it said number of columns is 2, should have at
2,
least 9.
9. Yeah, you're right. I don't need that.
So you're phrasing this in the present tense, which is not how I generally phrase it. And I'm not saying that was necessarily bad. I'm just noticing that the difference.
Right. Where else? Where else are you saying there's tense issues, or is that it?
That's it. Contains can go sort of either way. And I'd use the word must here instead of should. That's a very
Yes.
pedantic thing.
Yep. No,
I was having a discussion. I was part of a discussion where we were talking about that. It's like should means there are possibilities where you don't,
right.
but in general you should. Whereas must is like, no, if you don't, then it's a failure. And that's really what the situation is here.
Yeah. To me, that's not pedantic. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I guess that makes me a pedant.
So let's run our test because we've now broken
Yep.
our test, and then we can fix it up.
Let's press click to see difference.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Lil. I think this is one of the things that I know I probably don't even do enough myself. But this is, to me, where I find both doing TDD as well as doing these very fine-grained, isolated tests, what some might call unit tests, but I think it's more than that. It's testing against the object that has the behavior. It makes it much easier to manipulate the input so you can get the precise exception or whatever failure, which is much harder to do as you move to other objects that call other objects and that finally call this kind of thing. So I like tests for failures. Um, do we want to clean up the formatting in that require on the bottom?
Oh yeah. Trying to remember the reformatting. Let me check, see if I got notes on it. I feel like it's Control Shift L, but I'm not sure. Well, I can find out, see what it does. Nope.
So it's going to be the same set of keys that
But
the Control Alt is usually a common thing.
is it L?
So it's Control Alt L, yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's close. Sweet.
So I tend to put sort of phrases together on a single line. So you've got number of columns was with its content, and then I would put must have at least, and then minimum columns on the same row.
Yeah,
So
that makes
basically
sense.
combine 36. So you want to do Control Shift J.
Oh yeah, yeah. Undo, undo. There we
Yeah,
go. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
I was just making a note. 1 second. Reformat. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we little things. We're missing a period at the end of the string. I don't know about that.
I think a period at the end of the string is a sentence versus a bullet item, which doesn't have a period.
Yeah, so it's like it's interesting. It's like, is this error message a sentence, or is it you know just a blob of information that has no end? I don't know. I
Where
could be
did that
convinced
test?
either way.
Yeah. Where did that test go?
Right there.
There it is.
So what about the 0 case? We sort of had the 1 and the 2 case. Is this going to handle we've got a row that's just blank? And is a blank row an error? Or do we just skip blank rows?
Oh, a blank row. Well, there's a blank row and no rows.
Sure.
Um,
No rows will work because when it does lines, it's basically going to be none and it won't iterate through anything. We should probably still write a test for that, but I think
yeah,
we're probably going to already handle that. But what do we want to do for blank rows? Do we want to just skip them?
I'm leaning towards skipping them. I don't think it
I
should
think so.
throw the whole thing out.
So then we want to test for skip blank rows.
What do you think? Skip blank rows or skip blank song rows?
What are you thinking by adding the word song there to differentiate it from?
Well, there's no other rows. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, I could see that if you were thinking ahead about we're also going to have header rows and we're going to have to process those. But if
Again, I think Yagni will
so, yeah.
fix that when we get to it. Okay, so we just steal this one and
We want to
actually,
steal valid rows. It's just
yeah.
we're skipping blank ones.
So this is probably a better one to steal.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. We don't care about the contents. We just care the number of rows.
Ah, I see. Gotcha. So let's go to here.
Yeah.
Is that sufficient?
Uh,
Actually,
I think if we're gonna do that, then we need to be more precise about, well, I was gonna say, do we care about whether the blank row is in the middle of two existing rows? Do we need to have another test for the blank row being first or the blank row being last?
well, one was at the test.
I don't know that we need that. Well, but let's get this one to at least work, because this one will
Yeah,
not work.
right.
This one will fail because we don't have any columns.
Columns.
So
Well,
this will fail because of the guard clause we just wrote.
oh, right.
Oh. Uh,
Now I want to know what's in them.
that was unexpected.
Should we add this?
No, no, no. Well, that should have failed.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Just try and debug what failed about it.
Um, I mean, you could add those assertions. I'm not sure that's not gonna tell us much.
Well, it has two. What if it considers this a row? Well, no, then if it considered this a row, then it would be 3. Not 2. Where was it you were thinking it was going to fail?
So I was figuring that when it split it into lines, it would have 3 lines, and then the second line that it processes, so not there, but when it does the map, and it does dot lines, and maybe this is a misunderstanding of what dot lines does. So dot lines should is it getting rid of the blank row on its own,
Oh, there it is. Okay.
right? Because I would have assumed lines would have said, I'm gonna break on a new line. And so there are 3 rows. There are 3 lines. And so um, the second line would basically be an empty string. And when it tries to do a split, uh, it would basically have no columns. And that's certainly less than 9. So that was my expectation. I find that hard to read, so maybe just hit F1. Sorry, Control Q.
It's still pretty hard to read, I imagine.
Uh, if you hit the 3 dots on the lower right of the dialog, you can say adjust font size. And you can make it bigger. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's even better. A line is either a sequence of 0 or more characters followed by a line terminator. So I would have expected line 62 in the test to be a blank line, and with that, and because that's 0 or more characters followed by a line terminator.
Right.
So what happens if we try to parse a song with an empty string? Have we tested that?
Not sure if we did.
Because I would, we tested sort of with one column, with 2 columns. We didn't test with an empty string. So let's uh, let's disable this test, even though it passes. I'm
Dubious.
confused by why it's passing.
Make a new test.
Yeah, let's put it above the one that was testing for the exception. Yeah, that one.
What do you want to name this one?
Handles empty row.
Now the other one skips a blank row. So this one's going to be just starting with an empty row, or?
Yeah, we're just going to give it an empty string. The rest of the test is, so you can copy the test, but what we want is an empty string. What happens when we try to do a parse of an empty string? So I don't think that copy paste was useful.
Yeah.
But we want the rest of the test because it's going to be very similar. No, we don't want the first part.
Sorry, I'm not grogging.
Copy 57 through 62.
Got it. 62?
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry, 61.
Okay.
And paste that into the test above.
Got it.
And then on 52, just put in an empty string.
Ah.
And I expect number, I don't know. What does split do? Does it return 0 if it finds, if for an empty string? What does split actually do for an empty string? It doesn't say.
Guess we'll find out when we run the test.
Yeah, the docs don't say. Did we run the test?
No, I run it.
Let's run the test.
Oh, it just ran one. Somehow I got off. Oh, it didn't throw an exception at all.
So how is that possible? How, so split's documentation doesn't tell us what it does when the input is empty. So it says if the expression does not match any part of the input, so if there's no tab, then the resulting array has just one element. Which, if it had one element, columns would be an array of 1, and it would be an empty string. And so why is that not blowing up? Because we're saying if the length is less than 9, it should blow up. Can you stick the a single character in the test on line 51?
Like that?
Yeah. So this should fail because it's going to say number of columns is 1, must have at least 9, and the row contains D. Okay. So that's failing in in that way. But when it's empty, So let's go back to empty. Does it return the minute? Does it return that
Message?
that? So is split on an empty? Let's write another. Let's write a test of. Uh, let's write some code on line 49.
In the test or in
Yeah,
the production?
in the
Okay.
test. So let's say assert that um, double quote dot split. Yeah. And then as a string, a backslash t. And yeah, let's use, what did we have? 10. And so then outside of that, so that returns an array. So we want to say has size 1, because that's kind of the way I read it. And let's run that test, or run all the tests.
So the split assert passed.
Can we change that has size of 1 to has size of 0? Just see that it actually fails in that way, because
Oh, right.
I,
Want to make sure that assert's
yeah.
being checked.
Okay. So it was 1 for an empty string.
Well, string with a slash. Oh, no, but it's an empty string. You're right.
So can we jump to the parse method? Oh, we're calling the parse method, which is not the parse song method. That was my wrong assumption. That's why we're calling the wrong method. Okay, let's call parse song. So let's delete 49 and 50 on the top. So my understanding of split is correct. If it's an empty string, it will return a single column that is empty. This should be parse song, which is private. We should really make that public. I know that violates all sorts of things, but I'm okay with that. And now we expect this to fail in the way that we saw it before, which is number of columns is 1, must have at least 9, and the row contains basically an empty bracket. Yeah. Okay.
Should we
So
make this pass?
let's update the test so it passes. Hey, Sweetie, welcome.
Howdy.
All right.
Okay.
So we know that an empty row, we've handled that. It does the right thing. So now what I suspect is that lines is either is ignoring blank lines is the only thing I can figure. Because we know that if it actually passed that empty row of line 72 in the test, we have seen that parse song fail. But what we're seeing here, and we can write again a sort of a little validation test above line 70. We can do an assert that no, inside the test. It's going to just be temporary. We're just validating. Oh, let's enable the test. Actually, it's not enabled. Let's make sure that it's actually passing, because I wonder if we accidentally didn't run it or something else. Aha. Okay. I think what happened was you must have.
We somehow switched.
We somehow switched to running a single test,
And we didn't
we
notice.
actually didn't. We're not running this test. Okay, good. So this fails in the way that we expect. Hallelujah. So let's now now we can finally kind of fix it. Let's do a commit, so that we haven't done a commit in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. What do we want to call this one?
Well, let's look at what we changed. So I thought we changed your settings so that it didn't pop that up as a pop-up, but it put it in the editor tab.
It does sound familiar. Um,
Let's go to your settings.
is it something related to diff?
Let's see. Where did they put that? Oh, it's under advanced settings, all the way at the bottom. And click that.
I want to just grab that for my own edification.
Are you writing an article that's going to include all of these? Because I'd really like to read that.
It's a good idea, actually. Show diff. That one we made it multiple. Made the song service test multiple. But that's not the interesting one. It was more this
Right.
one, I think.
So I don't know if you notice that for diffs, it shows in the gutter where you can find the added files near the scroll bar location.
Right
So
here.
all the way on the right. So in the right gutter, you can see the green.
Oh, the green.
So that shows you greens are adds and blues are changes. So that rightmost gutter is basically showing you the entire file and showing you the scroll bar,
Right.
sort of where that is in relation. So if you scroll down to the green area, you start seeing the stuff that we added.
Right.
So I think it was pretty much all about handling invalid data.
Import data. Have we called it import? We haven't. What have we been calling it?
Parsing.
That works for me.
All right. Let's commit. So this is that, like, I really think that setting is wrong, like, because it's basically committed, right? So if you open up the commit window, all the stuff has been committed, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. So the test failed because it ran the test after the commit, even though, and I have that on my list to file an issue. I think that's wrong. I think it's like, if you're going to say, uh, don't com like, if you're going to say run tests, to me, the whole point of that as being part of the commit dialog is like, run the test first, and if they don't pass, don't commit. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
I don't understand it. All right, so we've got a failing test. What do we want to do about it?
So
And I
what's
say
the
that, sorry, I say that because it's past our sort of scheduled time slot, and so
right? It is getting. Yeah, if
but
I wasn't dealing with a.
because this would be a good place to stop.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I wasn't dealing with a little bit of a non-streaming related crisis, I would probably keep going for another half hour.
yeah.
Um, is this a good enough breadcrumb?
I think it's an excellent breadcrumb because it's basically skip blank rows doesn't work, uh, and it doesn't work as expected. Like it before, we thought it was passing, and it actually wasn't.
Right. I mean, put anything into our Jira.
Yeah, so let's update Jira. Yes, Suiji, you're right. It when it does the code analysis warnings, that stops the commit. Um, I never had that turned on before, so I don't know if that behavior has changed, but it seems bizarre to me that in the commit tool, you say run test and it runs it after. That makes no I don't know, is it a bug and I'm the only one who's noticed it, which seems odd, but it I don't know if that's intentional behavior or not, but if it is, it's wrong.
It's weird. Yeah.
So that's why I have it as an issue to file. So I'll actually do that today. Um, so I think we can say we're done with the process multiple songs if we consider that sort of happy case. Um, and now we're on to negative cases of skip empty rows. Are there any other negative cases? I don't know.
Don't know.
uh, and then next after that, I guess we'll work on the header rows to skip. I think we already did 55.
Yeah, we did.
Because that was basically part of our negative cases. Yeah, I think that's good. And then so next time we'll handle the empty rows. We'll handle, if we think of any other negative cases, we'll handle that. We'll skip the header rows, and then we could probably move to the UI finally.
And we could skip the header rows.
Oh, that's true. If we want to go right to the right to the UI next, then absolutely we could skip the header. We could skip skipping the header rows. All right.
Cool. The time always goes so fast.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the participation. Great to see you folks. I don't we don't yet have a specific plan, date, and time, but of course, as always, if you join the Discord, go to ted.dev/discord. You'll get a link to the Discord. If you're not already a member, that's where you'll get the most notice of upcoming streams, either pairing with Mike or solo streams by myself. Book club, the polls have closed. I haven't looked at it yet today. That'll be my job today. And then once we finalize a book or books, a little bit of foreshadowing, then we'll announce it and we'll get set up, and the book clubs will start again with our next books. So join the Discord. Lots of great places to have discussions about everything from TDD and testing and domain-driven design and architecture and Java and all that good stuff. So join us. And click on the alerts buttons in the roles channel if you want to be notified specifically of when streams are planned. I try to, as soon as they get planned, I try to put it there. If they're sort of ad hoc streams, which is usually just me, I try to give at least some amount of notice, more than you'd get if you were just following or subscribing on Twitch and YouTube. So that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ted. That was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, it's fun. And I'll see you all next time.